Oh, and I need to take this out. Okay. Make sure my mic is working. Okay, looks like it is, should be. Okay. All right, man. So get right into this. If you got questions or questions, throw them in the comment section. I'm gonna try to get to them, and about anything, throw the questions in there. But in general, I want to hit a couple topics today that are just on my mind. The first one is the current state of basketball in the country. I can't necessarily speak to the rest of the world, but I'll tell you, things have changed. They always change quick in the industry, in the basketball world, in the market, and like from style of play to the business side to what's cool to what people want. It always changes fast. And so right now, of the last couple of years, what has changed is what people want. And so people want the things that are associated with social media. And social media has infiltrated every part of our lives. Sports is no different. So anything that is cool or looks cool or seems cool or is likable or is shareable, that's what people want. So by nature, most of that stuff is game oriented, right? It's not that people didn't want games in the past. Of course, that's what you play sports for, is the games, right? But now you don't have to win the games. Like, winning the game is not necessarily the thing. How you play and what your real value isn't really the thing. It's just, do I have something shareable or likable about the game, whether it would be, pictures that get taken, or whether it would be one highlight play, or whether it would be somebody that you can stand next to, whether you're playing against them or with them, that you can stand next to, that kind of makes you look better because they're popular. Everything is that. It's like high school on steroids, like everything is about popularity. And all the way from youth basketball up through, I'm not going to put the NBA. The NBA has always been about that stuff. It's entertainment. But through college basketball, that's what it's about. And so people now, the kids, gravitate towards what can make them likable, what can make them marketable. And so that's kind of lead me to my next thing, whereas I've said this in the past. I think in another 20 years, 30 years, basketball won't even be a team sport. It'll just be an individual sport. And if you kind of think of it from the the transfer portal, NIL sector, a college athlete is now a professional, right? It's not so much about the team or the program. It's more about what can they get, what type of branding, what type of opportunities can they get, what type of money can they get. And if they don't love it at their current situation, they'll just go to the next one, because it's more about their individual brand and life and success than it is the team. And there is nothing wrong with that. I'm not mad at anyone trying to better themselves. Not at all. It's just the reality we are in, though. You no longer bleed blue or red or whatever your team color is. You bleed your own shit. And so now take that concept. It's so much more about the individual. Soon it's not even going to be a team sport. I find it hard to believe the NBA would ever go away, but I'm talking about there's going to be some other carved lane where, like, you can just be an individual. Like, it's you could just show up to, here's a good example. You could just show up to any game. You can play for any team. You can play in any league. You can do anything. Like, all the people will be almost independent contractors. All the players can just shuffle and go anywhere. And obviously they're going to go to what heightens their personal brand and their personal situation. That's where I think things are going to go. And really, you kind of already see it in AAU basketball. Elite AAU basketball, they don't practice. Like, let's say if you're below high school, and so you don't have to follow the rules of, like, the shoe circuit, where you have to be a touching state, like a tri-state, like a touching state area. You have to have kids from a state that touch your state, right? So if I'm in Pittsburgh, I can't have somebody from Montana on my Nike EYBL team. That doesn't touch. The states have to touch, right? But at the youth level, that rule doesn't exist. So people are already doing this. They're not practicing. They're just figuring out how to make the connections and relationships to say, okay, I'm going to have a couple players from Georgia. I'm going to have a couple in New Jersey. I'm going to have a couple from Texas. I'm going to have one from Michigan. And, then a couple other kids from Ohio, where I live. And then I don't live there. I'm just giving you an example. And that's our team. No one has to show up to practice. We just all know the tournament dates and where they are. And we all fly from our own areas to go to one destination and meet up at the tournament. And that's your team. That's individualism at its finest. And trust me, those kids are going to leave that team as soon as they find a cooler opportunity. Because remember the first thing I said, it's about cool first. It's about popularity first. It's about what is going to get me more likes and clicks and shares. And I'm not talking about just physical and social media. I'm talking about the social currency of it as well, like the intangible side. So that's what's turning into. I think another 30 years, as this isn't going backwards, by the way. Like, we're not going back to the old ways of the 80s and 90s. That's not happening. Nothing in the world works that way. We're only moving forward. So we're only going to go deeper into individualism. We're only going to go deeper into caring about the cool, likable stuff, right? So in 30 years, we're going to be so far down the road that it's an individual sport. That's my opinion. That's my prediction. I would love to be wrong. I would love to be brutally wrong. But I don't think that's going to happen because things only go forward. So another concept I wanted to hit on today was just kind of the overall development of the player. And I talk about this all the time, it's going to be really hard to develop your game to be what you want to be if you're doing things that are more individualized, if you're doing things that are more like not team based. If I never have to really practice with my team, there's going to be certain things. I'll give you an example. Like when you see say if you're a person who doesn't naturally play hard on defense, or you don't naturally do like the little things. If you're a competitor, when you're on a team and the guy next to you is going super hard and doing those things, you're a little embarrassed. You're like, "Ooh, I need to get on his level. Like, I see him doing it, I'm going to do it too," even if you don't naturally do it. When you're not showing up to practices, or when you don't really care about the team, or when it's more about your individual brand, you don't feel that pressure to level up. You don't feel that pressure to get out of your comfort zone and do these things. So that in turn hurts your development. I'll use myself as an example. I was a kid who my whole life I was usually just better than everybody, more talented. Um, from the area that I grew up in, I was always just like the best kid, or damn sure the best kid on my team. Maybe not the best kid in the entire area, but I was always the best kid on my teams for the most part. Through high school, same thing. I was just the best player. I had the ball in my hand all the time. I could basically shoot it as much as I wanted. And I was never going to come out of the game because I was the guy. I was the talented one. But I didn't have a motor. I didn't have the motor that I needed to have. I didn't care about intangibles. I didn't care about playing defense or getting stops unless I took something personal, unless I thought there was a kid on another team and he was scoring too much and he thought he was better than me, so I wanted to step up and guard him. Like, I wasn't a basketball player. I was an individual, right? But when I got to college and realized, number one, I wasn't as good to continue to be an individual. I just wasn't good enough. There were other individuals who were better than me, bigger than me. But when I saw guys who also cared about competing and winning, it hyped me up. Like, all right, now I want to box out. Now I want to play defense. Now I want to get a stop. Now I want to dive on the floor for a loose ball. Those things start to, because I am a competitor, I do care about winning. So when I see my teammates doing it, then I want to do it too. But if I wasn't showing up to practice every day, I would have never had that other way of thinking, because you don't just get in a game and all of a sudden make those changes. You do that in practice. When your boys are sitting there right next to you on each wing, and you have to get a stop or win the drill, or you guys all have to run suicides until you throw up, you don't want to let somebody down. You don't want to make someone physically hurt because you weren't doing your job. That comes from practice. You don't get that in games. And so I'm just making a point that practice and deliberate practice is the key to development. So if you're of this new age of basketball where practice is not so important, you are going to miss those aspects. And you're never going to be like me. You're never going to be the kid who leveled up and started caring about little things, because you're never going to be forced to. Because when you show up to an AAU game and the game is only lasting about 40 to 45 minutes, and they ain't blowing the whistle for fouls and all of that shit, and your coach usually just wants to make sure you guys win, um, no one's holding you accountable for that stuff. You're not finding the time to actually be put through those situations to care. So you're just never going to be it. You're never going to have the intangibles. You're never going to have the basketball IQ because you've never experienced it and you've never had to. So that is where the new model of basketball is hurting development. Now, that said, though, if I have 1 million followers on TikTok and maybe people don't want me on their basketball team, but they want me to just show up and promote their basketball team or promote their league or come do shit at halftime or come show up at practice and shoot a commercial, you could be probably just as successful, if not more. And I think that is another topic. I think there's a real lane for children now to start growing up earlier, being an adult earlier, and getting into like financial life earlier because they can now build a brand. You can be 11 years old and have a brand. Again, what you think about that, what I think about that is really irrelevant because it's just an opinion. The reality is it is the reality. So although I'm saying, development is the key and that's how you get better and that's how you reach your goals, I think a lot of kids are starting to have different goals. I don't think nowadays, I don't think there are as many kids who care about becoming a Division I basketball player. I don't think there's as many of those as there are of kids who just want to be, YouTube famous, or whatever, anything in that lane. So I think it's just changed. I think what kids want has changed. And so, as a coach, as a person who runs a basketball business, an operation, a development operation, we have to understand that reality and not be fools and understand that this is the new age. And so if you're gonna go down that road, hey, I think that's pretty cool too. I do. I think it's pretty cool to be a somebody who's marketable enough, who has a brand. The thing is, I would rather you be an adult and go through that. I'd rather you not do that as a child. That's just my opinion. But it is a lane, man, and like if you can be successful and happy, then who really gives a fuck? Fuck Division I basketball or being the best you could be, being the best player you could be. If you're happy and successful on your terms, doing your thing, no one can really knock you for that. No one can really knock you for that. Today the game isn't what it used to be. Here's the thing, Rel. How do we get back to the root of real hoops? It's definitely a lane. Yeah. So Dion, I think it's all in perspective. If you're coaching a team, if you're coaching your son's team or something like that, and you just want to make sure that the kids who are locked in and involved with you just want to stick to real hoops and real development, you just do that and you preach that narrative. Um, if you are someone in my position where we have like this big operation and we got kids from all over the place and we have to make a lot of money to run the business and all of those things, you have to adapt. I would say you have to stick to your core principles. But at the same time, you have to be able to change with the times and drizzle in the new age. If you're just somebody who's a fan of basketball at home and you just watch it a lot and you're a fan of it, I would tell you that real hoops is never coming back. So you probably should just watch the old shit or move on to a different topic or sport because it's not going backwards, man. What we call. I was born in 1990. I grew up in the 90s and early 2000s. So what I call real basketball is not real basketball anymore. So I'll just be an old fool if I'm going to keep trying to make it that. But at the same time, I still believe that my narrative is still about getting kids to be the best that they can possibly be within themselves. And in order to do that, you do have to have some, real basketball cores because, I bring up the kid Rob Dillingham a lot just because he's very relatable to your new age player. He's a little dude, he's a flashy dude, he shoots a lot, dribbles a lot. Everything about his game is flashy. It's everything about his game is valuable, it's likable, it's shareable, right? Okay, so he's real relatable to the new age. But at the same time, you know, Rob was doing what he had to do to get to Kentucky. He was doing what he had to do to stay on the floor at Kentucky. There are games, I watched them. There are games you will see that Rob was reprimanded for not playing real basketball. And he made the change. You know, he said, "Okay, my bad. I got it." And he went in there and played real basketball. And so you know, that I'm just trying to make a point that even though there is a new age of things, there's still a root of what makes you a good, valuable basketball player. And those things, you know, probably will never go away as far as, you know, high level college basketball or high level. I can't say high level high school. I could see high level high school basketball also becoming more of an individualized branding thing. Especially, hey, you know, it's legal to do like NIL deals with high school players now. So in most areas. So yeah, I think it's all gonna go to that. But you know, at the end of the day, the good thing that has come with the individualization and the NIL and the ability to be a brand, it now heightens, it could heighten your enthusiasm about being a great basketball player. Because if you're going to be a great, solid, old school basketball player, on top of having new school skill, you could go make $1 million at Duke. You can do it. You know, you can do it. And shit, man, I got a kid at Youngstown State right now, and you know, he's making a salary. You know, he's making a salary. It's not a big one, but he's making a salary at 19, 18 years old. He's making money, you know, real money that he can pay bills with. I don't know what he's going to do with it. He can invest it. He can get a car. He can do a lot of things. He doesn't have to ask his parents for money. So, like, that's huge. And to a lot of people, that is the success. Like, you know, that, you know, so whatever. It's all in your own perspective. But I'm saying if you're somebody who just wants to be the best that you could be, there's still a heightened incentive to be that too. You know, I see there's 6 people in here right now. I thank the 6 people for being in here on the YouTube page. I needed to make a better effort to use YouTube, and so we're trying to do that. So I thank you for coming over here. I know there's people on Instagram right now. You know, let me unmic this on Instagram. There's people over here on Instagram right now. You need to just go to the YouTube page when we do these lives, because I'm gonna mute it on Instagram to try to get people over to our YouTube page. And if you haven't checked out the free coaching on the YouTube page, if you go to our playlist, go to relacademy.com. I'm sorry, go to @Rel Academy on YouTube or youtube.com/Rel Academy and look at our playlist, specifically the basketball practices. There's so much free coaching in there. The hooping at home, which is what I do personally. So much free stuff you could do on your own, stuff you could learn as a coach, as a player, as a parent, whatever. So people need to check those out, man. But in general, got to get people to go over to the YouTube page and start watching the lives and the Q&As over here. So obviously we're trying to do that. So for the 6 people who came in here, thank you. Dion Mingo, who left this comment in here, or the question, you know, thank you. So just letting you guys know, when we do these lives, go over to the YouTube page so you can check them out. And thanks for keeping up with us. Keep checking it out. The content's not going to stop. It's only going to keep coming. And as far as the basketball side, I hope we can continue to add some value that people, you know, benefit from. There's a little chat down in the chat box over here. You'll see that little $ icon. That's the donation. If you can donate to the page, I would appreciate it, so I can make this shit better and make it into a more entertaining platform and show and bring people on and all of that. So send that super chat to us as a donation. I'd appreciate it. Head coach in New Jersey. Okay. Yeah, thanks, man. I do appreciate it. Appreciate you popping in here. relacademy.com and @Rel Academy on all the social media pages to learn more about just what we do.